My name is Andrew Self. I will be presenting my action research PowerPoint presentation from the University of the Cumberlands, EDOL647 with Dr. Wood. So my action research question is, what are teachers' perceptions about assessment and its changes? Oh, my audience is my wife, sorry. So this is the introduction for the action research question. There are several different types of assessments used in the school systems. Most years, assessment changes within the state, district, and even schools. Students are assessed prior to attending college differently than assessed while in high school. So for example, some students in high school aren't assessed with multiple choice tests like the ACT and the SAT are. They're assessed with essay formats, performance assessments, fill in the blanks, and so on. Assessment affects the way teachers conduct everyday activities. So the type of assessment used affects the way the teachers use strategies to teach the students, which affects the teachers. All teachers have experienced some type of assessment change in education. So no matter how many years of experience you've had in education, there's been some type of change in assessment. So what this action research question does is it talks about different teachers who've experienced changes and how they feel about that. Now, the first note says there are several different types of assessment used in the school systems. So for example, in an elementary school setting, it could be a different type of assessment than in a middle school setting, and then a high school setting, and so on. Most years, assessment changes within the state, district, and even schools. Sometimes, even though schools are in the same district, they assess differently, and a lot of teachers assess to the test, or they teach to the test. So whatever type of state test they have, that's the type of assessment they use. Alright, so the purpose, why am I doing this action research question? The reason I'm doing this action research question is to examine how teachers feel about assessment changes. So how do teachers really feel about constant change in testing? Also determine how assessment affects the learning environment. So does a different type of assessment affect the student's achievement level? And then the last one is to gain an understanding of why assessment changes. So why so often every 2 or 3 years does assessment change? Is it for the students? Is it for better academic achievement? The question is, why would it change? Alright, so this is a little background or literature review about teachers' perceptions about changes. So faculty are required to make judgment and analysis on application knowledge along with skill development and evaluation. Newman and Archibald, my reference is Newman and Archibald, but anyways, the faculty are required to make judgment analysis on the application knowledge, so they were required to determine what type of assessment to use. That's pretty much what they're saying, based upon the skill development and evaluation. The second bullet says the teacher's views on assessment regarding what should be learned affect the conception of assessment, what they learn, and the student learner outcome. So the views of the teachers regarding what should be learned could be differently than viewed at the state level, or the district level, or within the administration, how teachers view that. The faculty viewed assessment as a method of improvement of student learning while informing their teaching practices. So for this example, the faculty views assessment as a method of improving student learning, all right, while also improving their teaching practices or strategies. This is a little bit more of a continuation of my literature review. 1/3 of the faculty described institutional as only using one measure of effective teaching. So 1/3 of the faculty felt that the institutional was only one thing measured for effective teaching, not their academic success, whether it was working or not working, their strengths and weaknesses. Faculty is positive about the methods they use to assess their teaching. Then their institution evaluate their teaching. So in this reference, the faculty was really positive about the methods that they used, and also really didn't agree with how their institute evaluated their teaching. And the final point is the faculty also based most of their assessment on teaching effectiveness on student test performance and ongoing formative assessments. You have any questions?
Not right now.
This is a list of the references that I use for that, for my literature review. Alright, so my research question 1. says, what actions affect teachers' comfort level with assessment? Okay? So the justification of this, why am I doing this? State and school assessment changes quite often, and teachers can be overwhelmed with change if they're not prepared. So in your situation, it would be if stuff changed throughout your job regularly that you were evaluated on. So if your evaluation process was changed, then that would kind of be similar to that. Struggling teachers coping with assessment changes. So teachers who struggle to adapt to those changes, or new teachers coming in, this is to justify them as well. And then determining the effect on teachers with new assessment implementation. So what effect does this have on teachers? Are all teachers just flowing and flexible and they're excited about the change? Or are some teachers just set in their old ways and want to continue to teach and assess how they've been teaching for years? In my action research, I had 20 participating high school teachers from Madisonville North Hopkins High School. 10 of the teachers had 10 or more years of experience in teaching, and the other 10 teachers had less than 10 years of teaching experience. 12 of the teachers were females, 8 of the teachers were male, 14 of the teachers were over the age of 35, and only 6 of the teachers were under the age of 33. I didn't have a very good judgment of new teachers who were coming in. So, instruments used for my methodology. So, here's really how I conducted the action research. The teachers were given 2 separate surveys about assessment on 2 different occasions. All right, both surveys will be in the same format with different questions. Surveys will be given out in consecutive weeks. So, survey 1 was given out during week 1. Survey 2 was given out during week 2. Teachers will also be asked 5 questions in an interview form at the end of the second week of survey. So each teacher, all 20 teachers, I interviewed face-to-face on 5 different questions. All right. The data will be recorded following each survey, and what I'll be looking for is patterns within the answers from the data collected and the face-to-face interviews. You bored yet?
Not yet.
All right, so examples of instruments. This is one of the surveys that I used. So this survey says, please complete the questionnaire concerning teachers' perceptions of assessment. This is a survey that was placed in their mailboxes, and they were supposed to return to me. So this type of survey has 5 different questions, and then a spot for them to leave their comments or anything else, or questions or concerns. So the first question says, describe your comfort level with assessment in your school. Question 2, do the teachers have a choice of assessment? Question 3, is there a struggle on choosing the type of assessment that will be used for a particular topic or activity? Question 4, has assessment changed in your school? Question 5, have your perceptions about assessment changed since being hired? And at the bottom of this survey I had a spot where there's years of teaching experiences and the different number of teachers that the teachers taught in. So some of the teachers had only taught in that district, and some of them had taught in multiple districts, just to get a range of opinion. So the questions were directed towards personal experience and how assessment that changed for them throughout their career. And questions also gave the participants an opportunity to express their opinions on their perception of assessments. Now, some of these answers were very short, one or two answers, and some of them were a small paragraph, just because they wanted to make sure they explained everything thoroughly. So again, with this survey, I was looking for patterns in all those 20 teachers on if they answered some of the questions the same, if they were different, and so on. Interview questions. The teachers were interviewed, just like I said previously, and these are the 5 questions. Now, some of these questions are going to be the same, again, looking just for patterns. So the first one is, what is your comfort level with assessment? Number 2 is, what responsibility you have when creating or choosing the type of assessment that will be used in your classroom setting? 3 is, how many different types of assessments do you use in your classroom? 4 is, while using multiple assessments, is there a pattern in student achievement? And 5 is, what advice you give to new incoming teachers about assessment? Now this one was a little bit more creative. It's where I can see their facial expressions, even though some of the questions were the same. It gave them an opportunity to express how they actually felt. And some of them were saying, well, this is the same question I answered, why do you need this again? But it was just, again, I was looking for patterns and see how their reactions were face to face. So the interviews were conducted to get a better perspective of the teachers' opinions. Each interview lasted between 5 and 8 minutes, and interviews were conducted during their planning period or after school or before school in a quiet setting where we had no interruptions. And then the questions were gathered to determine teachers' perspective of assessment. All right, so this is how I collected data. Again, it's methodology for that. There's written surveys. As I said before, the surveys were distributed to 20 teachers and to be completed and returned in a 2-week time period. Once all surveys were returned, data was collected from the responses. Now, the written surveys, this was a little bit of a tougher spot because it's closer towards the end of the school year, so they had to get that survey in back to me. That's why I wanted to be shorter, because I didn't want to have like a 10 or 15 question survey for teachers who were doing stuff at the end of the year. The interviews were the same way. I only want to do 5 questions there, so it was a quick in and out. They didn't use their entire planning period, because again, at the end of the school year, teachers have tons going on, and the last thing they want to do is take their entire planning period away from them. So the interviews were conducted at the same time, 20 teachers, with the same 20 teachers, to collect further data concerning their opinions about assessment. Anecdotal notes were taken from both the interviews and the surveys to collect further data. Notes were made to develop a pattern within their answers. Alright, so this can be confusing, so I'm going to explain what this is. This is just a pie graph, or a pie chart. No, that's a graph. A pie graph of the answers from the questions. Alright, so on the bottom right portion of the graph says the 5 different questions. So the first question was, has your perception changed? Has assessment changed in your school? Has the comfort level of assessment in your school changed? The choice of change in assessment in your school, and the struggle choosing the assessment method. Now obviously, just telling from the graph without me telling you the numbers of the stats, you can tell that there was 2 questions that pretty much all the teachers agreed with or agreed in. Which ones do you think those are?
The dark gray and the lighter gray, perception has changed and assessment changes in school.
Oh, okay. So, according to the data collected, 17 teachers, 17 out of 20, said that their perception had changed. So, 17 teachers from when they came in, perception had changed about assessment since their first year. 20 of the teachers participating confirmed that assessment had changed within their school. So all the teachers said that they experienced some type of change in their school. So 17 said that their perception had changed about assessment. All of the teachers said that their perception has changed, or that the assessment has changed within their school. 6 of the teachers expressed their comfort level of change about assessment. 8 of the teachers said that there's a struggle in choosing what type of assessment to use. And 2 teachers felt that they had a choice in how assessment changed in their school. So only 2 teachers felt like they had a choice or opinion in how that assessment changed. Right, which I thought that was kind of crazy because only 2 of them felt that way. Anyways, the results from this survey provide information which portrays that every teacher who participated has experienced some type of change in assessment throughout their career. The graph also shows that teachers' choice and changes in assessment are limited and non-existent to their comfort level is higher now than their first year teaching. But still, there's some teachers who are uneasy about assessment. From this data, results show that teachers experience changes in assessment regardless of the experience levels and are not happy with the constant change throughout their years of experience. Also, 20 teachers have experienced change in assessment, which affected their teaching strategies. Those teachers who struggled to choose an assessment method explained they were unsure about how to assess student achievement. So they didn't know with the activity how to assess their achievement. So didn't know to use formative tests and do that throughout the unit or the activity, or a summative test and do that at the very end. Just to kind of review a summary of
Okay.
it. Okay. All right. So the teacher interviews. These are the notes that I took for the teachers' interviews. The teachers were open about assessment changes, and feelings amongst the participants were similar. Teachers explained 8 different types of assessment they use in their classrooms. So if you remember when you were in high school or you were in college, did everyone assess the same?
No.
So are all your did you perform better in some assessments than other ones?
Yes.
All right. So do you feel like it would be better if some teachers, if all the teachers you had in your college or high school classes gave the same type of assessment?
No,
You don't think that would be better?
no.
What if it was the same type of assessment that you excelled
Then yes.
in? So the reason I was asking that is because a lot of the teachers suggested that they would have common assessment within their department. So everyone in the math department would assess the same. Everyone in the English department would assess the same. Everyone in the science department would use the same type of assessment. So whether it be they all use multiple choice, they all use essay, they all use fill in the blank, they all use the same summative, they would have common assessment within their department. There's a reference to teaching materials and not the students. So a lot of people said that they were teaching the materials whether the students were picking up on it or not. Just because they had to get through so much material, and that's what the state wanted. I disagree with teaching the material and not the students. I'd rather teach the student no matter how much time it takes, but that's just an opinion and preference, I guess. There was concerns of students' achievement with a variety of assessments given. So some of the teachers said that they expressed a concern with how the students are assessed differently throughout the day. So it really wasn't fair for the students. Like you said, you didn't think it was very good, right?
What?
All the different types of way you're assessed.
Right.
Okay. So this came from the teacher interviews. All right. So on the bottom, on the right hand side of the screen, these are the 8 different types of assessments that were used, and when it's going to break down how many teachers use those different types of assessments. So during the teacher interviews, 18 of the 20 teachers assessed through bell ringers on an everyday basis through a different type of method. All right, so that would be a formative assessment. I think we talked about you didn't know really what formative or summative, so that's a formative assessment. So 16 of the 20 teachers assessed through multiple choice because that's what the state and national tests were on. So state and national, your ACT, SATs, any other type of test you take are going to be some type of multiple choice. Half of the teachers, so 10 of the 20 teachers, said that they used the essay method. 50% of the teachers said that they interviewed because of the state or national methods or district methods. 5 of the 20 teachers used matching to grade. These were mostly freshman teachers, by the way. Demonstration, observation, and interviews were all used by elective teachers. So elective teachers are those teachers who don't teach a core subject. So if you don't teach history, math, okay, you got it, good.
I know what an elective
Two of the 4 teachers used the rubric method, were core teachers. All 2 teachers interviewed showed a wide range of assessment used in their classroom. There's not one single teacher out of those 20 teachers that I interviewed that used the same type of method in everything that they did in their classroom. Do you think that's good or bad? There's not a right or wrong answer.
Then don't.
Oh, okay. So, all right. So, the data analysis on the methodology. Based on the data collected, all teachers have experienced change in their assessment. Experienced teachers have endured the most change in assessment. Obviously, the longer you're going to be teaching in that field, the more changes you're going to have to go through. Teachers felt that they felt the need for common assessment within their departments. Teachers' perceptions about assessment has changed since they were hired in their current school for better and for the worse. So some people really thought the assessment changes are better than what they were, and some people feel like some teachers felt like that it was worse. Experienced teachers suggest professional developments for new teachers dealing with flexibility and the ability to adapt to changes. Some teachers don't like the change, but understand there must be flexibility and the ability to adapt for the students to continue to learn because it's about the kids, so they can grow.
How it should be.
All right, so next steps for the research question. So what are some things that we can do to help teachers, I guess not help teachers, but affect the way that assessment changes?
You could do PD in the summer.
Okay, about what?
The assessments that take place.
Okay, so we could have like professional developments throughout the summer to discuss different types of assessment used in classrooms.
Yes.
For all teachers?
Yes.
Okay, what else?
New and the new ones and experienced ones.
Yeah, and I think that something that they could do is have the experienced teachers hold those professional developments. So then they can give their personal experience and backgrounds of using different types of
Yeah.
assessment.
Even those, especially that have worked in other districts, that it might be different to bring something new to the table.
Look at you. Okay, what else?
Trainings for new and incoming teachers that are maybe fresh out of school, who are coming into the education field, maybe not fresh out of school.
The newbies.
Okay, the new.
So the new incoming teachers have some type of training about assessment.
Yes.
And see, I think that if there's common assessment used within the department, that'd be easy to train that type of assessment. Because if they're an English teacher, they're going to assess this way. That makes sense. They're a math teacher, so that can almost be broken up in departments. All right. Good. Anything else?
I think that's all I got.
Yeah. What about? So one of the things that the teacher said in the interviews was that the ability to adapt and the ability to be flexible, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in those last changes, so maybe something they could do is throughout the year discuss different types of assessments used. So in their PLC groups, have teachers share types of assessments they use and whether it worked or not.
That, or maybe you could have other teachers discuss the changes that they experience and how they learn to adapt to it.
So the changes that they use.
Like what worked best for them when they knew that this, something had changed, how they dealt with it in the best way possible.
Yeah, I think those are all good ideas. Good job.
Thanks.
Okay, so the second part of my action research was a PLC question. So the PLC is my practical learning community, or my professional learning community, excuse me. So within my professional learning community, that's everyone in my department. All right. So my professional learning community question was, what areas of assessment do we show strengths and weaknesses using a norm survey? Now this is a survey that my group in EDOL647, we discussed in Dr. Wood's class, and it was a time where